Hello viewers, it's FWKAwesome, and welcome back to another episode of Talkin' Hawken. I've got Old Knockout with me, and he's a veteran player from the 12-12-12 days of open beta. And together we're going to sit down with Captain Josh, the new owner and producer of Hawken. Captain Josh, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, this is Captain Josh here. I work with Reloaded Games. I am freaking thrilled to be a part of Hawken. This is kind of a dream come true, and it's mind-blowing. It's awesome.
Thank you, and we really appreciate you joining us. So let's just quickly ask you to explain Reloaded Games maybe to us, what the company's structure is, maybe your history with the company.
Yeah, sure. All right, so Reloaded Games is it's now a free-to-play company. So there's Reloaded Games. Subsidiaries to that is Reloaded Productions, which is in the UK. They're the development studio for APB Reloaded. There's Fallen Earth Inc., which is obviously the Fallen Earth development team out in East Coast. And then now the new one is Hawken Inc., and it's a company set up in California, Southern California specifically. And so all Hawken assets are held by Hawken Inc. I am effectively operating all those assets at the moment, and that's the current structure. We also have, a couple of years ago, we started what's known as a delivery business called Supernode, which optimizes the download of really large files, like 6 gigabyte heavy clients for PCs. So that's pretty good stuff. I guess the history of the company is it was KT Network back in the day, which was actually the first company in Western countries like the US and Europe to really do the free-to-play model for games. So be that as it may, some people probably hate that, other people probably love it. I don't know, it's kind of cool, you get to play games for free, so it's not too bad, I guess. I started at KT Network in 2007, and I was a GM for a year. Then I moved into analytics and business intelligence and became the data warehouse manager, which is what I've been doing kind of ever since. But I've been doing a whole lot of things in like the IT and tech side. So I've been exposed to, I think it's like different games at this point, sort of the deep innards and the back ends. I have a decent idea, I suppose, of how things work.
Great. Let's talk about how did Reloaded Games come to hear about Hawken, and maybe if you can explain the purchase process.
Okay. I'm not sure when our CEO first became aware of it. I'm sure his conversations with investors or friends or other people in the industry or conferences and things. So I'm not sure if it was earlier than December or January or something. I just know that I came into the office, I don't know, what was it, January 12th or something like that, or 8th maybe, and there was a bunch of servers sitting on the floor. And I said, what are these things? And everybody's like, I don't know, they just got here. And I asked our head IT guy, he said, I think that's Hawken. Some guys delivered the stuff, some liquidators. And I was like, wait, Hawken? Are you kidding me? I thought it was still running. He said, no, I think this is like the dev stuff, so it's not the operating servers and things. And so I started asking around. I said, so what's the story? What's happening? And he said, well, it's a bankruptcy thing. The sort of the main investor who then owned all the assets, because they're like the chief creditor or the main creditor or something like that, wanted us to try to rescue what we could or get what we could so that nothing got lost in case servers got shut off or shut down. So that launched a good, really up until this last Friday, it's been a giant process of moving servers. We actually worked with the company to completely migrate the entire back end of data, the data storage systems, and move all the servers over to entirely new infrastructure. I think I expanded on your question, but that's generally what's happened.
Go ahead, Old.
Okay, so you just kind of really touched on this a little bit, but what's your impression of the current state of the game, and what is the top 3 things to fix first?
I am thrilled at how stable it is. It is absolutely fantastic. I know there are times over the last several months, FWKAwesome, you had a YouTube video about this, where servers would go down or come back up, or your friends list would disappear. that was all migration stuff. But the game is extremely stable, and it's a testament to, I think, some really good development on the part of Adhesive Games and Meteor. The things that need to be fixed right now are we fixed the back-end data storage system already. That was actually extremely limiting with how it was structured and sort of deep technology with sort of how they've done data models and things. With this new data backend, it's a lot cleaner, it's going to be a lot faster, a lot more flexible. So ongoing development should be much, much easier and quicker, cheaper. So that's already been fixed, which is kind of nice. The next things are going to be obviously the forums. Got to do all new forums. We're in the process of doing that right now. The customer support portal is going to be very soon. There are still some bugs in the tools. Then after that, really, it's a big process of getting oriented and familiar with the code base. We have to set up all the servers, so the source code is there to check things out and build servers and asset servers and licensing servers. It's a daunting task the more I look at it, but that's what the next few months are going to look like.
Okay, since we've been playing Hawken for a while now, we noticed that there's a lot of map glitches and people get outside the map. Do you know when this might be addressed or fixed?
This will definitely be a high priority item, both because it's extremely annoying when somebody on front line is jumping up and running in the air and shooting at you. You're just like, dude, come on, stop. And they say, no, I'm having fun.
If my team was here,
okay.
I'd stop.
Yeah, really. So it's kind of a good specific thing to research and fix, especially the brand new code base, because you have a very specific goal, and in getting to that specific goal, you touch on other code, and I think you're able to sort of accelerate the process of getting oriented to the code base.
Now, let me just add this. A lot of the map glitches, and there's like invisible walls, things that you get stuck on, I guess were reported on the forums. Are we just going to have to just make new reports of these things when the official forms come back? Yes and no.
I'm actually looking through my Twitch stream right now from earlier because one of our dedicated players, Ashfire, had mirrored the content of the forums at some point in the past. He said he kind of hacked it out over 30 minutes and just because he thought it might be interesting or something. As it turns out, it's extremely useful. So the content exists, which is nice, but things like the links were broken, like because they're all relative versus absolute. Now it's going to be hosted someplace different and all that sort of stuff. But one player named Theatis M is actually processing it all to fix all that. So in theory, they're going to be able to host it up on a web server someplace, and you'll be able to browse the old forums as they were as of whatever dates he ran that. So in theory, you'll be able to find the old content, at least browse it. I really don't think we'd be able to import it into the new forums, even though they are the same forum software. That just would be extremely painful. But you can at least copy and paste a lot of stuff.
So while we're on the topic of forums, do you want to talk about the Reddit post that you made, putting it out there to the community for input about the forums and what decision you came up with?
Mm-hmm. All right, so the initial thought was IPB, we already know, sort of as a company, like I've been in the process of the growing pains of when the posts table gets too big in IPB, what happens, or when you're using MySQL in the back end. So we already kind of knew that, well, we know what to do when it gets really big. But we're like, is there any chance that a different forum software might actually be just a better fit? Because if we're going to jump on something like that, now would be the time to do it. So maybe it was a bit too of a snap decision, but I wanted to put it out to the community just in case there was some other foreign software that was just drastically over and above crazy better than IPB or something, and they just had a fantastic experience with it, because I just don't have the opportunity to test out every foreign software. So Vanilla Forum definitely came up. Discourse was one that I found that was kind of interesting. We looked into it a whole bunch, and it's really nice. Vanilla is open source, and we'd like to have a project that we can contribute to and things. But in the end, it kind of seemed like it would just take an unexpectedly I don't know, a whole bunch of dev time to actually get to the point of the functionality that we really want. We could do it, yes, but do we really want to do that instead of work on the game? Or do we really want to put money into that versus put money into development of Hawken, the game? And I look at the functions and the features and functionality between the two, and it wouldn't be a huge improvement over IPB. So I took the, more bang for the buck route, I think. But I think performance will be great. There's a lot of fantastic communities that use IPB. We know how it works, and I think it's a good feature.
Great. And so with that, how soon can we expect the forums to actually go live?
Today we set up the machines that are going to run it. We set up the firewall rules, put them in the right sort of subnets and all that sort of stuff. We set up got the SSL certificates for it, and we dug up the code for how the old single sign-on authentication scripts and data transport worked. Since we didn't have what was running on the other side, like on the forum side, we had to kind of infer how it worked. I mean, granted, it is documentation; it's not rocket science, I guess, but still difficult for me. It looks as though it's a very similar implementation as what we've done before, so it took a while, but I think we have a pretty good solution that we'll definitely start firing up tomorrow. At least the really early stuff. This will be just the raw machine starting up, and then we got to make sure the SSO works. Got to make sure all the certs work and the forwarding works, and then start testing, confirm it. I was hoping we could have something by this weekend, but realistically, it feels like one of those being too optimistic hopes. But if we can, yeah, we'd definitely do it. But I'd say definitely next week.
Great.
So, a little bit back to the map glitches and stuff. As a new user coming on, you probably have noticed this as you've been playing the last few months. You run into some hackers with aimbotting and stuff. Do you have any plans on how you're going to deal with that? And are you going to have some type of a reporting system so people can report these?
I know people have talked about something where you can quickly report in-game. There are a number of ideas that we've kind of been tossing around over the past several years, in fact, of how to actually do this. We've seen a couple of games that we've actually operated where the devs added in this sort of a feature. And ultimately, it kind of just depends on getting the right design and doing it, I think. So I'm completely into that. Client-side protections, definitely we're into, because there are all kinds of hacks that they kind of just pre-solve. Granted, once you go client-side protection, it kind of becomes an arms race, and someone's always going to think of some other clever new way to circumvent it and exploits. It's irresistible for some people. Expensive in the long run, but yeah, I don't know, what can you do? We have some server-side solutions that we have experience with, like Fair Fight. They are very effective to get, especially the flagrant hackers, and so, I mean, we're going to be exploring all those things. We actually had we've had a couple of different anti-hack solutions contact us over the past. Actually, I guess it's just been a few days.
Okay, you mentioned I guess a previous video of mine with the flurry of server activity. Was there a story behind that server migration?
Yes, there was. Yes, there were. So we kind of went into all these things cold, like we didn't know what was what. Defter, though, however, was there to kind of step us through some of these things. That guy is awesome. Seriously, hats off to him. So there's kind of two times where things would have gone down. One was when we actually moved the storm services machines. The first time that went down was when we migrated the chat server, so your friends list disappeared for a while. There are some dramatic moments with that one because it's running, it's got Erlang code running on it. Let me tell you, man, it's kind of arcane if you don't know what that stuff is. And really, it was things like I don't know, game servers would lose connection with the main server, and they behave funny when that happens, when they try to reconnect or retalk. There are times where you'd start up a bunch of servers, like you'd clone them to make sure that when you cloned them again in the future and you started everything up, they would just work or something, or would you have to do a massive redeploy of everything.
Now, were you guys like in a hurry? Was there some kind of deadline imposed on you?
Oh yes, this was a fuzzy unknown deadline. So when we first heard about it, as far as we knew, the virtual hosts that had a lot of the sort of the guts and the data of this stuff were impendingly, I don't know, they're about to be shut down. They could have been shut down any day because the bills were past due. Nobody had been paying for them for months, and it was almost this feeling of, oh my gosh, just get whatever we can and just pull it. So I was trying to find credentials to all kinds of servers and just get in and start copying off as much as I could. And
so there was there was a real fear that, you know, from the player base, we were always afraid like somebody's going to pull the plug. There was a real fear of the plug being pulled.
Oh yeah, definitely. The outstanding balance is big, and you can't just expect somebody to leave the lights on.
Right. And did you have like an actual date or month when that almost happened, or is that when all the server activity happened?
That's during that time when all the server activity was happening. The very first server we moved was like the chat server. Then right after that was control servers in the back end, and then the tech guys, the fauna team, had to do a migration. They, generally speaking, they did it live, and it was for the most part seamless. And there are obviously hang-ups, problems, but generally speaking, the game stayed online the whole time.
Yeah, you definitely kept us guessing.
Yeah, we would have liked to do it so nobody was really the wiser, but I'm happy it happened and everything's safe.
Okay, do you want to do number 5?
Sure. So what can you tell us about the development team that you're putting together, and will you have any members from the previous team?
So yeah, we're in a stage now where provided Hawken stays stable, players sort of come back and it continues moderate growth. Revenue sort of stays where it is, grows modestly, and shows that it's stable and that it's not just going to fall apart or something. That's when we're going to start seeking significant development resources into rebuilding it. So we've already hired a tech lead. He's actually a tech director, I suppose. For its really Unreal client games, though he has a lot of CryEngine experience and basically has just been doing games for a long, long time. Client side as well as some server things and gameplay and all that. So he's actually going to be building a team, and this team will jump on Hawken when it's ready. So when we get past the stage gates that are borders that we really need to have and we need to do before we sink a huge amount of money into it. And that's how it's going to look over the next bit of time. We're going to take our time, hire the right people, put together a really good team because we don't want to be hasty. It's fantastic because we're in a position where we don't have to be hasty. And I think Hawken is in a really, really good spot.
So realistically, how long do you think until we see new content? Are we talking 3, 6, 12 months from now? Or is it all dependent on how much revenue is coming in from the game, depending?
I guess it'll be a combination. Like definitely my priority the next 30 days is to fully catalog where everything is at, because there is content and art and assets in the game and the client that people have talked about and found that they exist. I just need to make absolutely sure they exist on the server, so when I inject it onto like my account or have a promo code redeemed for it, it doesn't like break the game, because really weird things can happen. So that kind of content, if we find something that's releasable, we definitely will. And I know some of the former devs have sort of hinted that, yeah, there might be something that you could release. Which I guess, to your previous question, Hawken, we're completely open to bringing on any of the former devs. And it's just, is it the right fit? Is it the right person, the right time? And That's all that really matters, I think. I just derailed myself. Did I answer enough of the question?
No, I think you did fine. Moving on, going back to maybe the forums question, how do you plan on managing the forums? Is there going to be a community manager or?
Yes, I think we'll have something like that, because my vision for the forums is that it's very, very self-managed as much as possible, because I want the forums to be a safe place for players to yell and scream and get angry at me because I'm going to make some decision that really ticks you off. I can understand that. I don't want to do that. But I'm sure it's going to happen. I don't want it to be edited speech, really. I don't want it to be people thinking that they need to post stuff pre-filtered from me or the dev team. Because I want the community to have this idea of, it's our job to try to communicate to the dev team and to me in the clearest, most precise language exactly what they see. What they see as being the problem, and or the opportunity or a design opportunity they see, so that I can very quickly compare what I think we're presenting versus what's actually seen, and then see where they're not matching up, or see where they're matching up perfectly and do more of that. And to be perfectly frank, the Hawken community is amazing. You guys are awesome. I know the former community managers and devs and producers and stuff said the Hawken community is probably the best, easily the best community they've ever worked with. And they thoroughly enjoyed it. It was heartbreaking for them. I know it. It was immense amounts of pressure at the end. And so, anyways, back to the question of, I'd like it to skew more community managed, community driven. I mean, voting for sort of who head mods are, community leaders and things like that. That sort of answers the kind of question you're looking for. I don't really enjoy the idea of draconian control over what posts can be posted, as long as it's not breaking rules and being a jerk to somebody.
No, I think that's exciting news for the player base. I'm sure a lot of players are going to be interested in being a part of the forums, so I think they're going to get excited over that one.
That's good. I really hope so. I think it's a fantastic opportunity, and we just got to figure it out kind of together as a group going forward. It's an organic process, and I don't know, let's do it.
So, I've been hearing some rumbles that maybe you guys will change the name, like Hawken Reloaded. Maybe when this comes out of beta, what do you think? Think that could happen, or what's your thought on that?
I don't like the idea. I wouldn't want to change it. It's a little bit cheesy. I don't want to offend anybody, though, if somebody really likes the idea. No, I really don't think we'd want to change it, no. I could have been more decisive on that. No, we're not changing it.
All right, so now we used to have promotional events like double EXP weekends, and there used to be promotional codes. I think new recruit still works. Are you planning on bringing those type of events back, or even adding some promotional codes?
Yeah, definitely. I think promo codes are just fun. Every time I find a promo code that actually works, I'm thrilled. And it makes me want to play more. I had double XP weekends. I always remember the very first weekend. It was like, I think it was Star Wars Galaxies back in the day. I was like, this is so cool. I just think they're fun. They're exhilarating and kind of exciting.
Great. Old?
So, you know how the user community's kind of been upset, and a lot of people have been leaving the game because of no news, and we're all glad that you're out and talking about the game. But so how are you going to attract more users to play this and keep them around to play longer?
It's gonna be definitely new content is necessary, because it keeps it fresh, keeps it interesting, especially when the content adds other things to consider in the actual functionality of the game, of how it plays and what the experience is. I think the fact that the game is not in any danger of going away. Surely it's got to count for something. It's going to help some, I think. I think having quite a bit of exposure of more of what the internal development process looks like, I think is interesting. I always wished when I was a player that I could see, what are you guys doing? Like, what's it like? What's the struggle with, I don't know, this design or that design, and how is the tech affecting it? I mean, maybe that's just because I'm sort of engineering-y, but that's something that I want to do. I think things like trying to consolidate or make an effort to consolidate like the lore and the backstory of Hawken and the characters and the sort of the plot lines and the things that the fans have written or created or concept art, things like that. I feel like that has actually a pretty big part in what the Hawken experience is, and I'd like to encourage that consolidation, I think of it as.
Maybe a follow-up question is, do you have any money in the budget for like advertising or even attending any upcoming events?
Oh, yeah. Advertising-wise, I'm a big believer in in finding the most efficient way to do it. Because I've seen advertising be extremely, extremely expensive. And there's so much money spent on advertising that I suspect doesn't work. It's not to bash anything, there's that intangible of, well, if that person had never even seen the game or they didn't see the ads for a game, they kind of forget about it and assume it's gone or something. So that's going to be something we'll be wrestling with, I suppose, over the next several months. But I think advertising is necessary. I'd like to wait until we get the bugs and kinks worked out. I know it's kind of rough because there's kind of the strike while the iron is hot scenario right now, but I don't want to hype something that can't deliver. And we do have a new database backend, and I want to make sure everything's solid before we really push something big. And I think let's take steady steps. This thing can grow. I think Hawken's a unique product, a unique experience that will always be relevant. So I'm not really worried about timing, I suppose.
And would you try to call on to the community to help get the word out about Hawken?
Oh yeah, definitely. I believe the community is a huge part because in all the big data meetings and analytics and stuff, one thing is definitely true, that when players have a good personal interaction, the more personal the better with veteran players, and it's a really good one, they stick more. And it's more interesting because personal connections with other people is what we all kind of, I don't know, I think we crave that at some level. Some people want to interact with more people, others fewer. But that's the exciting part about online MMOs, is that there are other people actually as your foes or your teammates. Now, as far as like the conference circuit or conventions and stuff, I want to figure out how to fit that in without it being distracting, without it being sort of pointless attempts at hyping things. And I would love to get out there and actually meet you guys. It's just fun. I hope that gives some idea of where I want to go.
And I mean, it's good to hear. We're glad that you're not trying to hype it up until it's ready.
Mm-hmm.
Quite sure we can get a lot more people to play. We had a lot of people playing when it first got launched on the Steam. So hopefully we can get those numbers back. I don't know if there's any way that you could send a mass email out to everyone that has an account and say, "Hey, we're back."
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that'll definitely be happening.
And then, maybe even giving access to the devs and having the devs take questions on a stream or something like.
Yeah, I think live streams and like Reddit AMAs and stuff and live interaction, like I think that's just great. I think it's a ton of fun, and I kind of love it when the really tough questions come up and the accusations or something. It's like, this is real. This is a real question. This is a real conflict. We're being authentic, and we can fight this thing out and make it better. Really resolve conflicts and stuff. And I think that's how you can build a really good foundation for the future. Maybe that's all a whole bunch of cliches I said.
So we need to throw you a real question now, right?
Go for it. Give me the nasty ones.
Okay. Well, on the subject of Steam, the game's been in early access, I think, since February of 2013. I think is when it launched on Steam. So, I know you talked about development stage gates and putting a team together, but how realistic can we expect to get out of Steam early access and maybe into Hawken 1.0?
I've seen a number of games now where they just sort of stayed in beta, and it was more of like we don't want to just stick our neck out there because people are going to say this game's not done or this not polished enough or blah blah blah. But yeah, it's a legitimate concern. The kind of cool thing about Hawken is like it is far more complete and far more balanced than a ton of games that have been released. And it's not to like criticize and say there's something superior, but it's ready for prime time, and it's time to move ahead, put the past behind us, and go for it. And I don't know, the timing, I can understand it. I'm completely open to waiting till we're actually able to build new client, new server, make significant changes. I can see that. But we want to get moving. We don't want to hang on to the past and have this sort of lingering, it's in beta, just hanging over its head for any longer than it needs to be.
So I think it's important for the viewers, like, for the longest time we haven't heard any news, and just the fact that you guys came in and bought the game, everybody's excited for the new content, but the more I talk about it and think about it, it makes a lot of sense that you're doing things very deliberate, and you've got these stage gates that you've already mentioned before you jump into just throwing new content at us. So
yeah, it's as our CEO says, hurry slowly. Like, move as fast as you can, but don't rush. Because when you start rushing, you make mistakes, then it just makes it worse. Because that's where those unfortunate early engineering decisions are made that come back to bite you really bad in the future. We don't want to make those.
All right, so great. Let's move on to question number 11. Now, you've mentioned in different streams that Hawken lends itself to competitive play nature, and there was a time there early on that they really wanted to push the competitive nature of it. What are your thoughts on that, and how much interest or attention are you going to put towards that?
I want to actually find how we can get the competitive scene supported by the game, while keeping it without getting distracted, I think, if that kind of makes sense. I know we have some experience with building, say, like clan systems and tournament type things in the past. We've seen them. We know it's exciting. And I think it's really just going to be a question of, okay, how deeply can we integrate it into the client and the game server code base versus is it completely outside? What kind of events are we talking about here? Like, what would really work for Hawken? Would, like, the big invitationals or something in Las Vegas, is that the kind of tournaments that Hawken would do well with, or is it going to be more like you can effectively rent a server for a tournament that you're hosting, and you can sort of tweak the rules within some set of parameters, or choose the maps and that sort of thing. I know there'd been some movement in that in the past, right at the end. Defter have done a ton of work to make that happen, and I think there's a lot of interest in it. It's just a question of, can we make it make sense, both financially as well as, as well as design-wise. Sort of a non-committal answer, I'm afraid, but I love the idea. I think competitive Hawken would be really cool to see.
I think I read somewhere that Steam was working on some competitive play module that you could plug into your... I don't know if there's something that you could look at and leverage.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff on the Steam platform. And I know Hawken doesn't leverage all of it. I know they kind of moved over to Steam, sort of not the last minute, but fairly quickly, I think. So they didn't have a chance to like fully integrate everything. It's kind of a question of, there's a lot of players around the world who don't have Steam, though. And so in one sense, you get a huge audience with Steam, but in another sense, you're kind of making it harder for other people to be able to play it. So that's something that we really need to figure out over the next several months, is like, how much do we want to like wholesale go Steam, or do we want to have another client version for non-Steam players, or do we just have a single client and you can do an SSO into it from Steam? We have some experience both ways. It's gonna be a complex set of things to figure out, but I think the best route will present itself.
Okay, and all right, let's stick with the competitive play theme here. I noticed like U.S. East is the only region running Fight Club, and the other regions are lacking. Are you planning on adding Fight Clubs to the other regions?
Yeah, the Fight Clubs are actually, over time, there were sort of two different server management systems that got developed. Let's just give a peek under the covers. The Fight Club servers are on this newer server management system that Defter had been working on, and a couple of the other guys. It's largely rebuilt. There's still some funny little bugs, and like it's really just I'm gonna have to just put the time in to confirm that the server management works, find what the Fight Club configurations are, and then double check them, because they have some kind of funny configurations that to go along with them. I need to make sure that they're more tightly coupled. They're pretty loosely coupled in the past, and I'm not even sure if all the configurations made it in some sense.
So maybe for the viewers, can we get maybe some kind of commitment that the Fight Clubs are going to be for each region, or just a specific?
I think it would make kind of sense to have a Fight Club for every region.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we could do that. There's no reason not to. It's not like a zillion servers that are a massive percentage of everything at the server population.
And then maybe touch on the private servers that we used to have.
The private servers, yeah. This is where it's. It seems to me that private server is very much the same as what a competitive type server solution would be, where you can have a server admin, you can set a password, or you can pull people in via invite, and then you can manually assign teams. Because I know right now people just have to get on the right team, I think, or let the matchmaker figure it out. It would be nice to be able to have teams. I mean, you can kind of do it, I guess, with parties, but it's not quite reliable enough, I don't think. But I think private servers are a good idea. I'd like to see it developed more.
Well, it was my understanding that the original system to authenticate went down, and is that the reason why they haven't reappeared?
Like the original which system to authenticate, like the password or something?
There was a system that you would have to log into to get access to the private servers that used to be on Central.
That's the front end to this. Well, it's not the front end to it. It's the there's a web server where you can admin your private server, and that machine exists. I brought it over. I just haven't really had a chance to completely turn it back on and fix everything, because I had to rewire all the configurations and IPs, and a couple things broke too, but I'm not sure what they were. But it's a problem, just a troubleshooting and fixing task.
All right, Old, do you want to close it?
I think that's, that's majority of the questions that we had and what we've been hearing on other people ask in your streams, and we're trying to keep this under like 45 minutes, and we're getting to that point now. But we really appreciate you coming to, joining us and letting us make this video. So I'm quite sure the community is going to be glad to go to one spot and hear all this stuff instead of trying to listen to multiple streams you've done over the past 3 days. Yeah, we really appreciate you guys taking over Hawken, and it sounds like you're going in the right direction.
Well, I appreciate it. It's an honor to talk with you guys. It's an absolute honor to work with this game, and I love it. It's a good time.
Yep.
A lot of work, but good time.
Yep, and we're excited for the future. That's for sure.
Oh, good. Me too. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. I will talk to you later.
Yep, thank you.
All right, thank you.